folks. How are ya? Good, excellent. I like to hear that. Welcome to the Woods Miller channel. So, in keeping with our little series I'm doing on here, the off-grid life vlog. So, in keeping on with that, this video is going to cover the topic of water. So, obviously, everyone knows the importance of water. Obviously, you need to live, and we need it for growing crops, gardens, harvest, being able to cultivate and grow and harvest your own food source, right? So you're going to need water for that, for sure. A fair amount. It takes, quite a bit of water for plants to grow, especially, depending on certain climates and that too. Obviously, the hotter and more arid of an environment you're in, you're going to need even that much more water. And then in that environment, where are you going to find that water, so there's always a lot to consider. So yeah, obviously we need water to live. You need water to, grow crops. And if you're keeping livestock, a variety of animals, chickens, whatever, right? They also need water. And, they go through a lot of water, especially the larger the animals that you have in that, they have substantial water needs themselves. So if you want to be able to do all that, especially in an off-grid setting, an off-grid environment, an off-grid lifestyle, there's a bunch of things to consider, for sure. So, and mainly that is, what are your water needs? You want to know that. So this is even going to basically, before you even, purchase a piece of land or you find your land or whatever. So, and I'm going to do a video, like just a summary. Probably I'm going to do it at the end of these. Just a summary video of basically what you want to consider before you even go look for a piece of land. Because, depending on the individual's needs and what they're looking to do, there's a lot of stuff to consider and sort of to brainstorm. You're going to want to brainstorm it and run through a lot of different scenarios before you even make that leap, right? So you give yourself the better chance to sort of somewhat be prepared, as much as possible. You can't totally be prepared, but so again, this video vlog series here, the off-grid life, it's just an introductory sort of, I'm calling it sort of a things to consider. So these, these videos are more based for, someone that's thinking of living off grid one day. They're not there yet. Maybe it's just a dream they have, or, they're sitting at work, they're sitting in an office, they're dreaming of a life away from that, right? And I know I've been there. A lot of us, have been there, right? That life where, you're just spinning your wheels and, you're not really feeling fulfilled and all that. So a lot of people look to this lifestyle to, sort of rekindle their spirit almost. So things to consider. So water. You definitely want to consider a bunch of things. So let's say a starting point for water is, what is your environment like where you live or where you're looking to maybe, set up your off-grid dream, your off-grid lifestyle. So you want to look at the environment. What is the weather like? What are the seasons there? How much rainfall is there? Is there snow in the winter? How hot are the summers, right? So you want to get a good sense of the climate of that environment that you potentially want to, start your off-grid life. So that's important for a number of reasons, right? So you want to basically, if you're gauging, okay, what are your capabilities going to be of, as a starting point, we'll say collecting natural water. So rainwater collection is huge, obviously, in off-grid settings, not only, but people in town, do that as well, right? It's known. So you want to, especially in off-grid, like you want to utilize any sort of moisture that's presented to you. You want to, ideally, you want to be able to capture what you can of that and basically harvest it, right? Harvesting, say, rainwater. Or in winter, when you have snowfall, is the other thing. You have water there, you just have to melt it. So if you have, decent amount of rain, you can harvest water throughout the season, from rooftops, stuff like that. And then winter, you can melt snow. So that's two good options, just as a starting point. Okay, those are potentially, a source or somewhat of a partial source of water. So then you want to think about too, like, how are the summers there, like the temperatures, right? If you're in a hot climate, like, you're going to need that much more water. If you don't have as much trees around and you don't have, natural shade and cooling, you might need more water there too, right? So there's a lot of different factors. Okay, so we've looked at natural water sort of harvesting or collection with either rain or snow. Okay, so another thing to consider is, so if you haven't bought a property let and you're looking at a property, what sources of water can you depend on there? Is there a river there on the property or close to it? Ideally, if there's water around, you want to have it fairly accessible. Ideally, for an off-grid property, there's characteristics ideally you want to have. So you want to have water around. Somewhere, the closer the better. Obviously, on the property is as good as you can get. I'm talking, if you have even a pond, a river, a lake, whatever, a source of water. Is there a spring on the property? Is there a spring near the property? Also, you've got to consider the ground, the water table in the ground of your property. How plentiful is the water in the ground of where you might be looking to move. So let me give you an example and I'll show you our setup here. Okay, so we have a dug well right here. There's our house there. So up the hill, obviously we have the pump in the well, and we pump the water from down here up to the house. So it's uphill, it's a substantial, and it's a 240 volt well pump because of the incline there and that, we need the higher voltage pump to get it up there. So you want to consider that, if you're looking, if you do have groundwater, you're able to, get a well drilled or dug, that's great. That's perfect. So you're going to have that water source to count on, hopefully, all the time or year round, which in our case, we do have that. We've been here over 5 years now, and our well has not once gone dry. So you want to factor that too. That's why I'm trying to emphasize, looking at what is the water conditions like of the property you're at, or that you haven't sort of even purchased yet. You want to get a good idea of what you can expect for water there. So another thing here too is the position of our well. So here, our property there's the road right here, and our property runs over the road there, and we have a river right there. So we have that water source, which is, fresh river water. The river is slightly above level of where our well is here. So basically our dug well here is like below like the water table. So that's a good position for a well to be. To be under, an established area of water. That's pretty much going to ensure you that, you have adequate water to meet your needs and not be running out. Another key component could be too, like I was trying to get at, is the placement of a well. As you can see here, our back on our house and all back along the backside here of our property is all hillside. So any rain, any snow over the winter, and it all funnels. It's kind of hard to tell on camera here, but there's a ridge going up here, and there's a natural bowl. There's a natural bowl area here that comes in. So basically this area down here, all this area down in here, particularly here, is quite boggy in the spring. So this is a natural sort of funnel, a natural water collection that comes down this bowl face and comes down into here, which is right where our well is. So that's, exceptional well placement to have those features and have the well right here. So that's ideal, very ideal. So like I was saying, our property layout in terms of water and where our well is positioned is efficient use of water collection that we can get at this property. So we're very fortunate. We see, people's wells run dry all the time. And already this winter, because it's been such a weird year, we haven't had a lot of rain, and we've had like zero snow so far this winter. People's wells are already going dry. A lot of them were already dry back in summer. So you don't want to have to deal with stuff like that. I mean, it is part of, country life and living with a well and that, like it can be. But that's why I'm trying to get at, like, if you can find a property that has good indications of, water, whether it be already an established body of water there, or you have some hillsides that come into a basin area and you can collect there. So that's stuff that you want to definitely consider, because you don't want to run out of water. I know that's my wife's number one sort of stressful thought, that, and it, like I said, it doesn't happen to us here because we're set up well for water here. But in the back of her head, because growing up, she grew up in the country, and where she lived not far from here, about 20 minutes drive, and they were more up on sort of the mountain, on a plateau area. And I know growing up as a child, like she's told me, like, you know, constantly they ran out of water and she wasn't able to have a bath for, you know, for sometimes a week or two, and it just kind of left a sour taste, like in her memory, in her mouth, of her memory mouth. So, but she still has that to this day. It's kind of almost like a phobia. So she's always asking, like, oh, what's the well at? Like, and I'll go down and check, and you know, we're still sitting fine right now. We're still doing laundry, showering, everything. So I don't want to really, again, with the self-sufficiency, the idea of living off grid and being self-sufficient, obviously you don't want to have to run out of water, right? Now you're paying, and it's not cheap, you know, you're paying big bucks to have a water haulage come out and bring you water. So you got the bill of that, plus you have that dependency that ultimately, to truly live off grid and sort of have the pride of self-sufficiency, ideally, you know, you don't want to have water delivered. But obviously, like, you know, if you can get it, I mean, you need water to live, so you do it. But if you can avoid it, you know, with picking the right property and using a few different methods of harvesting water, like I said, you know, collect as much rainwater as you can, use snow in the winter, you know, stuff like that. Like, and the rainwater, like, you can collect as much as you want of that, really. As long as you have, you know, big enough holding tanks, just fill them. If you can get some tanks put into the ground, fill them up, right? It could come in handy and save your butt in those dry periods, right? Save you from having to order water in and stuff like that, or having to rely on someone to bring you water. So yeah, anyway, again, just, you know, a video of things to consider. So water, it's an important one. So like I was saying, if you're looking at a property, give it a good look. You want to scope out all the potential water possibilities of that property. So anyway, folks, I hope this helps someone, and we'll catch you on the next one. Till next time.